Hey, this is Alex Thomas, vulnerability researcher at Wordfence. Recently, we dropped a blog post on how to set up a vulnerability research lab specifically for WordPress vulnerability research. This blog post walks you through 3 different methods to set up a WordPress instance on your local machine. And in this video, I'll be walking you through how to set up those instances. We have Docker, we have Devbox, and we have WP Engines local. All right, let's get started. Okay, so here I have the blog post, and if we scroll down, we'll go to choosing a platform for your WordPress instance, and the first option here is Docker. Now, I've gone ahead and done some preliminary setup here that is required for my host machine, which is Fedora Linux. And so there are a number of things, including setting up the repository and all of that for Docker. And so here we'll go ahead and just download Docker desktop, right? I'm going to download that RPM package. Okay, and we will copy this command for when that is ready. All right, there we go. Let's switch to our terminal here. There it is in our downloads, Docker desktop x8664.rpm. All right, and let's install that. So while that's installing, let's go take a look over here. We are installing Docker, and let's go to the installation instructions here under installing and configuring the Wordfence Docker WordPress instance. It says to clone the GitHub repository. We can actually just take this and go open link in new tab, and that will take us here. Okay, then we can go up here, copy this, right? Go back to our terminal, make sure this is done, looks like it is, and we'll do git clone and paste that git repo link in. So that is done, and that creates this directory right here, bvp-dockerwp. Let's head over to the README here. All right, so we have a folder structure. We have WordPress on PHP 7.4. We also have WordPress on PHP 8.4. So we have 2 different folders. So we are in the Docker WP-74 directory. We're gonna do Docker compose. Actually, let's do sudo build. Here we go. All right, so our WordPress container is built. Let's take a look at this. All right, so now we just need to do a Docker compose up -d. Let's see, Docker compose up -d. Let's do a sudo. All right. All right, and then it says should be running on localhost port 1337. Let's copy that over. All right, there's our WordPress instance on Docker. We'll call it Wordfence BBP Docker. Admin at wfbbp docker.local install WordPress. And there we go. So we have the Docker install. Okay, now let's move over to the next one, which is WP Engines local. All right, so let's navigate to their website. Let's do free download. All right, choose my platform. All right, I am on Fedora. Alex Thomas. All right, there we go. We are downloading local. Okay, let's switch over to our terminal. Let's go to our downloads folder. There it is. So we'll do a sudo dnf install local 9 2.4 linux.rpm. Yes. Okay, looks like we're installing all of our dependencies for local. All right, looks like it is complete. And let's see if it's there. Local, there it is. Let's launch it. All right, so when you open up local after you install it, you are going to have this button, create a new site. Let's go ahead and do that. We will use this option right here. Blueprint is pretty cool. You can actually set up your WordPress site, do a number of things, and save it as a blueprint, and then you can load new sites using that blueprint like a template. So we're gonna hit create a new site, hit continue, give it a name, let's call it local 1, and we'll click this advanced options right here, and we'll see that the local 1.local is the domain or the default domain, and then we can see where the site will be stored, which is our home folder, and in the local sites folder local 1. So the preferred configuration actually uses nginx and or a newer version of PHP, as well as a newer version of MySQL. I like to go into custom over here, choose the latest PHP version, 8.4.4, or the latest version that it supports, and then I will pick Apache, and we'll go with MySQL 8.0.35. And you'll notice here that if it has this little icon right here, it means that it will need to actually download this package. Whereas with this selection right here, you can see that it doesn't have that icon. It doesn't need to download it. It has already downloaded that package. So the same is true for this right here, as you can see. So I think that's mostly relevant if you have like limited bandwidth, maybe if you're using like a hotspot or something like that, and you don't want to waste that bandwidth. You can choose a version that is already downloaded. All right, add site. So we'll say admin, and we'll say admin add local 1.local. All right, check our advanced options. I will select English as my language, and here you can change if you want a multi-site installation. I will say no. Okay, it looks like it's building my site. All right, so it says local 1 added. Click to view site. Let's go ahead and do that. Switch over to Firefox, and there is our site. We can go to WP admin, and we can log in, and there's our WordPress site. Another cool thing about local, especially the latest version, is that it has a number of quick access features. One that is, I think, imperative for vulnerability research is to enable this Xdebug option that will allow us to do debugging with Visual Studio Code or PHP Storm. We have quick access to the site folder if we need it, again, which is in your home directory, local sites, and then the name of your site. The web root is going to be an app public, and then if you go back here, you have your configuration files for PHP, MySQL, and Apache, and these are actually templates. So you can edit these templates, and when the site is started, those templates will apply to the actual configuration files. And then of course you have your logs in here. So let's close that. You also have a site shell. This opens up a terminal with the appropriate environment variables. And then this link right here that will open up Visual Studio Code with your WordPress site web root, which is super duper convenient. So we can just go straight to searching for vulnerabilities. Other features, this will take you straight to WP admin. This will just open the site. Here we can save as blueprint and clone the site. We can export, delete, and so on. And then another cool thing about local is you can actually run multiple sites at the same time. If you have the routing feature enabled, which is enabled by default, you can actually go into the preferences here, and we can go to advanced. And here your router mode should be set to site domains by default. And what that will do is it will allow you to run multiple instances where the routing is all done through nginx. So all your connections are proxied through that nginx router, and then it is sent to all of your individual sites, depending on the local domain that you put into the browser. That's all through your etc hosts file or whatever your hosts file is on your operating system. So that is local. Yes, let's shut down all of those sites. Let's make sure that is shut down so it doesn't interfere with anything else. All right, let's go back to the blog post and let's go to the next option. All right, so our next option is Devbox. Jetify's Devbox is a really cool product. Let's go install it. Started, installation guide, For Linux, we just need to run this command right here, so we'll do that. Okay. All right, Devbox is installed. All right, so let's go here. So it says install Devbox. We've already done that. Create a folder for your WordPress site. Actually, I think that will happen if we do our git clone properly. So let's open this. Let's copy this. All right. P WordPress Devbox. So we're gonna switch into that directory. Let's clear that real quick. All right, so we have a devbox.json, we have an nginx folder, our readme.md, and a scripts folder. All right, so let's look at the instructions here. All right, git clone. We've already done that. All right, so let's type in devbox shell. All right, so we'll have to install Nix. So let's let it do that. And let's take a look at our next instructions. After devbox shell, we will run devbox services start. There is a note right here. If you switch the web server in devbox.json to nginx, run devbox setup nginx before you continue. So I think we'll just use Apache, which is the default configuration. And here it shows you if you want to change the default passwords, you can do that by editing devbox.json and changing the DB password constant and the WP admin password constant as well. And then it shows you the constants to change and the values to change in devbox.json if you want to use nginx as your web server. So right now we actually launched devbox shell without doing any of that. So our default is going to be Apache, and we will be using the default passwords, which I believe is just admin for the username and a password for the password. Okay, so that's done. We've installed devbox, we've installed Nix, we've launched devbox shell, and now we are in the devbox shell, which is denoted by this little bit in your terminal. Let's hit clear. Let's look at our next instruction. So we have devbox services start. All right, so we have started our services. You can see what services were started right here. We have Apache, some supporting processes, MariaDB, and PHP-FPM. Okay, we're gonna run this devbox script, set up devbox. Now we're gonna stop the devbox services and then start them up. So devbox services stop, devbox services up. Okay, so now we have this cool process compose screen where we can see our services running. You can see Apache is running. We have our access log and error log. MariaDB is running, and we have MariaDB logs as well as PHP-FPM. All right, so we have some additional information on why we use devbox services start, devbox services stop, and devbox services up, as well as why devbox services restart doesn't work sometimes. And then let's use some of these commands to quickly install some users. So devbox run setup users. We will switch to, we'll actually have to switch to another terminal here. We're still in our devbox, but as noted here, we don't see that we are actually in our devbox terminal. So we will do devbox shell. Now we are on our devbox shell, and I will run devbox run setup users. This will use WP-CLI to add a number of users, subscriber all the way through editor. Let's skip those for now, but we can use these to install WooCommerce and Elementor real quick if we want. If we are testing a plugin or theme that involves those, these are pretty useful. And I think setup WooCommerce is configured to kind of set up a demo site. So it adds a few products and things like that. So it makes it just a bit easier to navigate through so you don't have to do it manually. So then it says access WordPress, navigate to localhost 8081. Let's do that. And there we go. There is our WordPress site. Let's log in. There is our devbox WordPress instance. And so that concludes this video. We've walked through all three options. We've walked through installing our WordPress instance using Docker, using WP Engine's local, as well as using Jetify's devbox. So 3 different configurations. You can choose whichever one is most convenient to you. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments below, or You can join us on Discord. If you go to wordfence.com, go to the bug bounty page. You can click on the invite link and join us on Discord. Thanks.